We've been renewed.
Yeah, we're legitimate again for another 3 months.
Really?
Another 3 months. Woo-hoo. And that'll bring us to about 7 years total on the air. Non-renewal? That's a renewal.
Should have read the Cliff Notes first.
So here you go. It's after the election, but as it were, here's a portrait of Donald, well, it says Trump. It's a portrait of Donald Trump that is being purchased by, not Trump, of course, but by the by one of his charitable foundations for $20,000. That's the price tag. Being purchased by his charitable foundation, and then being displayed, I don't know, maybe at a local Burger King or something.
Can I outbid? I mean, I don't have $20,000 and a dollar.
Well, no, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing: the artist that's getting paid $20,000 for this fine piece of art, in order to get the job to do it, had to make a $25,000 contribution to the Donald Trump presidential campaign in order to make $20,000. What a deal!
It's good business.
Okay.
So today, speaking of Trump, which Trump has 6 letters, Trump has 5, and of course we're going to be talking about the 5-letter P word that Mr. Trump happened to bring in to the media lexicon. I'm not sure how far I can go with this.
Puss?
Puss, that's only 3 letters. Well, anyhow, we have a whole stack of 5-letter P words that we could talk about, since this is the thing that Donald has brought to us. So we're going to put this one into the stack so that there's the chance that maybe it comes out. But we'll probably talk about other 5-letter P words. Who knows? Maybe we'll talk about good 5-letter P words like peace. Peace would be a good 5-letter P word.
That's one that never came up during the debates.
Never came up in any debate. We're going to shuffle. We're going to shuffle. We're going to shuffle. We're going to cut the deck.
I'm not sure if pussy came up either, though. Oh.
Uh-oh.
We weren't going to say that, were we? Exactly.
First 5-letter P word. It's just a
phase.
So, in regards to the election,
yeah,
is it just a phase?
Is it? Is America going through a growing pains?
It could be. Is it a phaser, like in Star Trek, and the aliens are going to come? There was going to be a wall to keep the aliens out. There was going to be the entire globe. And they'll come to us with phasers, and we will be doomed.
Or, as they did in that movie, and I can't remember the name of the movie, but you'll have to find it. It's got a couple of guys that come in from England, and they rent a big van, and they're traveling across all these different spots in the American Southwest, and they're in the hotel room in Las Vegas, and they ask the concierge, or the gentleman that's bringing them to their room, something about aliens, and he says, of course, now he's Latino, so he asks, "What do you mean, aliens?" Oh, it's in the movie Paul,
There you go.
about an alien.
Paul, 4-letter P word.
Yeah.
Unless you go P-A-U-L-L. We're going to cut the deck again.
Let's
and
do
what
it.
comes up? Photo. So, this election, there have been some very interesting photos
There
that have
have
become
been.
available.
There have
What is the photo you think of more than any for this election season?
Probably Trump turning his mouth into a kind of an oval, and his teeth appear sort of like, they appear not like a mouthful of teeth, but like the mouth of a lamprey eel.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I'm going to think of photo as a photo opportunity that maybe this was the first real election season of the selfie. I think we saw more people want to take a photograph with a presidential candidate than ever before.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember back at a time not too long ago, a year or 2 years ago, when President Obama got flack from all the people that give him flack about anything anyway, but it got a lot of flack because they actually was in some selfies, and I don't know what their objection was at that point, but those same people are doing selfies now too, so I guess he taught them a thing or two or three.
You know what would stop presidential selfies? Going back 100 years where you'd have to stand for 90 seconds next to the presidential candidate waiting for the photo to develop. Now that would stop. Could you imagine having to stand next to Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
for 90 seconds waiting for your photo?
Yeah, kids, that's a tin. I think it's called a tintype.
Ooh, daguerreotype as well?
Daguerreotype, yeah.
I think that would be...
The brown and whitish looking
Yeah.
photos
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the mid-1800s, the ones that are circa Civil War era.
Very much so.
Like the Civil War that we're going to probably see the day after the election.
Ooh, see, now that's where word association gets good.
Yeah.
We start getting into all sorts of things. So, speaking of, the cards are listening. Speaking of a civil war, the next P word is purge. Uh-oh. There's a couple of ways we can go with this, I suppose. Purge could be the way you feel about this entire election. I think you should take
We
this.
haven't done the binge, but I think we probably could do the
We could
purge.
do the purge. Hopefully, we will not be purging people from this country.
Well, I can think of one candidate that's going to purge all the periodicals that said such nasty things about him. Like, when I say said nasty things about him, they actually said what he said.
Yes.
They reiterated things that he said as evidence of his.
Free advertising. Evidence of his free advertising on media stations everywhere.
Now, did he say, going back to photo for a
Yes.
second, did he say anything about, what did he say about he could go into Times Square in broad daylight and was it take a photo of someone he would get, and his followers would love him even more if he did that?
Very much so. Photos of everyone. Photos of everyone, everywhere.
Yeah.
And all of the photos, amazingly enough, all of the photos, they'd all be white people. It's the magic Trump camera.
He could turn people into white people?
I think he thinks he can.
I think he probably can.
But that is the point. The cards are listening. They're coming up in the correct order.
That's the point.
The point. Now, I think of The Point as being that film back in, I think, the 70s. I think Ringo Starr was the narrator. It was a child who had a pointy head and he was different from everyone else. It was a cartoon. If you haven't seen it, go find it. It's got to be out there.
Yeah, I remember that movie. It was called, it was a cartoon movie. It's called Yellow Pointy-Headed Submarine.
Oh, that as well. That as well. But there was The Point. And he goes from place to place learning that it's okay to be different, to be the outsider. And this is an election season of outsiders, I think, as well.
Yep, absolutely. We have outsiders that want to be insiders.
We have outsiders who are looking for 5 percentage points of the vote. And if they get those 5 percentage points,
Then they're automatically on.
on the presidential ballot next time, which
Nice.
means all of that energy that had to be spent getting signatures can go to other things. So, for Jill Stein, I think we need to try and get her the 5 percentage points.
Well, I think the likelihood, at least logically speaking, the likelihood of both Jill Stein and Gary Johnson from the Libertarian Party of getting 5% of the vote, it makes sense that they would, simply because 70% of voters, when they're polled, say they don't like either of the two major party candidates. 70%. So there's got to be a 5% in there for, there's got to be a VIG in there for Jill Stein, and there's got to be a VIG in there for Gary Johnson going forward.
Now, here becomes the question, if you want to go slightly down the cynical road. If it's rigged, if the numbers are already decided, do they give them 5% to make it seem like truth? Do they give those parties 4.999998%?
Just to give them the old Ungazza.
Yeah, I wonder what seems less full of shenanigans, which is not a 5-letter P word.
Well, I can think of a couple of candidates that probably wouldn't be like one of the major party candidates and wouldn't be claiming that they were cheated, that the election were rigged, if they fell short of 5% legitimately, and they might, possibly. I don't think either one of them are going to be whining and moaning about or looking to start an armed insurrection in the day after the election, like one candidate is leading his followers toward.
He's leading them to armed pizza insurrection.
Armed pizza insurrection. What is an armed pizza insurrection?
Well, some would say that when you read the WikiLeaks emails,
Yeah.
the term pizza comes up way too often and in strange and unusual ways. It seems that the Democratic inner circle seems to like pizza a lot. Some would say that pizza is a code word, some have said. So if you're interested in that, you might go searching on that Pinternet or Pinterest.
Pinterest, yeah.
And the Democrats, Podesta, who has more than 5 letters, or he would have been a card.
Yeah.
Podesta and pizza. And Podesta and photo, because John Podesta's brother, Tony, apparently has quite the strange photo collection. And there was an article in the Washington Post discussing his photo collection that would make guests uncomfortable.
Is that your phone or mine?
Am I ringing? Wait.
Oh, it's mine. It's mine. Hello? You know, we don't take live calls on this show. Oh, you know who it is? It's Rush Limbaugh.
Hey, Rush.
Mark says hello.
Wait, isn't Rush short for Russian? Did you hack the... Oh! Truth comes out.
Rush was on the show right before the election and on his own show.
Yeah.
Not on our show. We've invited him, but no, we haven't. And he did an interview with himself, as he normally does, and he was quite clear about the fact that Janet Reno, who died on Sunday, quite clear that the Clintons murdered her. Now, there's a list of about 50 people that the Clintons have murdered. And, you know, Ron Brown, but there's a whole long list of Vince something or other.
Not Vince Scully.
No, not Vince Scully.
Oh, my God.
He's still alive. He stopped doing the Dodger. He stopped doing the Dodger games, but he's still alive.
That's why he stopped doing Dodger games.
Yeah. So, but apparently Janet Reno became, this is true. It says Janet Reno is the latest murder victim of the Clintons. Now, she died, apparently she died from, what did she die from? Parkinson's. Another P word.
Yes.
Parkinson's. She died from Parkinson's. She died on Sunday. And quite clearly, Russia's got plenty of convincing evidence that she was killed by the Clintons, who injected her with Parkinson's 20 years ago with a time-release capsule of Parkinson's.
Wow.
And the fact that she died 2 days before the election is clearly proof
Rush Limbaugh, folks, says it's clear.
that she was definitely had something on the Clintons that she was getting ready to spring the day before the election. And so she had to be dealt with in a Clinton-esque manner.
Now I have to ask you, Rush, did you call because you hacked my list and made phone come up next? Rush, you are the Russian hacker of our P words, aren't you? Rush, short for Russian. We missed it all these years.
Well, his last name is Roulette, so very possibly. Oh. No, it's Limbaugh.
Oh.
Which is like Limburger, which sometimes goes on a pizza.
Cheese. It all comes back to cheese.
It all comes back to cheese.
It all comes back to cheese.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Thanks, Rush. So, that was our phone call for the time. I think we'll
undoubtedly get more.
We will. It seems to happen. People tend to have the worst or best timing and call us when we're on the air.
Polls.
Bernie was a cross-country runner. He was not a pole vaulter, although he did certainly vault up in the polls throughout the campaign.
And his family
season.
wasn't from Poland. They were from another country in Europe.
They were. So, polls. What do we think about the polls?
Well, I know what Donald Trump said about the polls.
What did he say?
He said that every poll that didn't have him ahead was rigged.
That word.
But now the reason why his polls always showed him as ahead was he would do what's called push polls. And push polls, if you don't recall back to the 2000 election, the 2000 Republican primary, you had two guys running that were in pretty good stead in that election. They're pretty much the two to battle it out. You had George W. Bush and you had John McCain. They're coming into South Carolina, which is pretty early on, but it became a very important bellwether state for determining whether John McCain or whether George W. Bush would be the Republican candidate. Well, a guy by the name of Karl Rove, who was the head of Bush's campaign, they called him Bush's brain, but Cheney kept saying, no, I'm Bush's brain, and they had this argument over who was really Bush's brain.
He was the man with two brains.
The man with two P brains. Speaking of P words. So Karl Rove had his pollsters do what's called a push poll. They called Republican voters in South Carolina, and the call went something like this. Now, if you knew that John McCain had sired an illegitimate black baby, would you be more likely or less likely to vote for him? Less likely? Oh my goodness, I'll have to make a note of that. And of course, the truth of the matter was that John McCain and his wife had adopted two Vietnamese children. And that's one of the things that people loved most about John McCain. Those are one of his better points, is that he and his wife actually adopted children from the war that John McCain, that were orphans, maybe second generation orphans, but orphans from the war that John McCain fought in. Very nice thing to say about him, and somehow the Bush campaign turned two Asian babies into a what's that again? A black baby.
See, I think of polls as being, there's a film, Heathers, from back in the 90s, Christian Slater, Winona Ryder, and the gist of it is that this character wants to blow up the high school. And of course, you can't say that now after all of the shootings have gone on, but that film came out before all that happened. Maybe it was encouragement, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he got everyone to sign a petition agreeing to blow up the high school with all of them inside of it. And he did it by having a petition where it would say, I'm signing this because I would like a hot tub in the gymnasium. And it reveals at the end, and he takes his switchblade and he peels the piece off that says that they want a hot tub. And underneath it says, we agree to be blown up. And so that's kind of how I think of the polls now, is we're asking you this, but we're just taking your yes or no answer and adding the question later. But if they're doing that, what stops them from doing it with vote? Oh, I can't say that 5-letter word. because it starts with a V and not a P. So what would they do with our potes if they could manipulate the polls? Potes with a V. We're going to shuffle.
Okay.
We're going to get away from talking about this. And wow, look at that. Piano.
Piano. Okay, I'm going to challenge you on this one. Come up with something relative to the election that's that has something to do with a piano.
I'm glad you asked.
Go ahead.
Stanley Kubrick's last film,
Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh yeah, with
Tom and Nicole.
Tom and Nicole.
While they were together.
Yeah.
And in that film,
Were they called Kid Tom or were they called Tom? Oh, Tom Cat? No, Tom Cat is the second wife.
yes, what were they? I don't remember.
Jerks.
It was long before my time. No, there was a piano player in
Yeah.
Eyes Wide Shut. And
At least one of them was a jerk.
he would get a phone call,
Yep.
phone call,
Yep.
and it would give him a password. And he would go to this big mansion,
Yeah.
and they would blindfold him. And he would play piano during this very strange ritual where everybody was masked.
Oh yeah.
And there are some that say that Stanley Kubrick was killed because of that film, that he had revealed something about the people in power, that they would have parties just like this, and that it was almost taken down by a piano player.
No. If there were a film that would have gotten Stanley Kubrick killed, it would have been A Clockwork Orange Face.
Oh. But only because he left out the last chapter and changed the entire meaning of the film, but that's a whole other show.
Okay.
So there you go. Piano,
There's piano. Okay.
Eyes Wide Shut,
All right, yeah.
and oligarchic parties. Ooh.
Woo! Zany.
And isn't that funny? Now, you saw me cut the deck,
Yep.
and I just pulled the 5-letter P word that I had just said while
Yeah.
talking about piano.
Yeah.
This stack of cards has been hacked. Power. I'm going to hand that one to you.
Oh, Julian Assange. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's Julian Assange that provided us with this word. Did he?
I think he did.
Okay. So power. Okay. So what is it about power that makes people, that makes candidates change their mind on issues in order to, so they can go to one audience and tell that one audience what that audience wants to hear, then go to another audience and tell that audience what they want to hear? What is it about that, about power, that does that to people? Now, both candidates, both major party candidates, clearly have been challenged as being duplicitous based on their quest and their thirst for power to talk to different audiences in different ways. The most famous one of the two, obviously, because she's had a lot more experience talking to audiences, is Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
Who went in front of Wall Street groups and said, oh, by the way, I'm on your side. Screw those poor folks. And then she would go in front of the poor folks and she would say, you know, I'm on your side. Screw those rich folks. Trump, I guess he went on what was the show that he was on where he basically said, I'd like to screw anybody that looks good enough. But not that fat Miss America or Miss Universe, because who would want her anyway? So his lust for power is a little bit more
Base.
Base, yeah, sexually based and base.
Where hers is a little bit more treble.
A little more trouble, yeah. Well, it goes along with their probably their speaking and their singing voices.
Yeah. I would say that power is, you know how we know that we're poor?
Yeah.
Poor only has 4 letters. We couldn't afford a 5th letter. Power gets 5 letters.
Bingo.
I mean, that's what it comes down
Power
to.
wins.
5
Power
letter
wins
P
over
words.
poor by a letter.
Yeah. I thought about making people a word, like P-E-E-P-L.
People.
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 People power, which is a whole different thing. And that's what this campaign and this whole season has been sort of about, and certainly what a progressive movement is about, is people power.
Every candidate, at least the major ones, and when I say major ones, I mean the 4 candidates that are on the ballot, plus Bernie Sanders, all claim to be people powered.
See, PEEP. Now, if this were,
PEEP, yeah.
if this were Easter, Peeps.
You're my peep.
Oh, PEEP. I like it. But we're talking people. So when we start combining forces, we've been doing all of these single words.
Yeah.
But think about that. Then we get people power.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. Give the power back to the people.
But I got to drop that PL off of 1 because this is what all the candidates seem to want to do to all the constituents, all the voters. This is what they want to. This is what they'd like to do if they could and get away with it. Not unlike Donald Trump's claim that he could shoot somebody in Times Square and get away with it. People like him better. I have no doubt that he would, if he went into Times Square and stood up on a building and were to do this and nail some people with his arc of triumph, if you will, arc of indignation.
Ooh. He would be saying poxes on the people?
Poxes, yeah. But Trump would modify that a bit because all he's interested in are foxes.
Ooh, look at that. Modifying the P. All right.
Now don't tell me you got the word puck in there.
Nope. No puck.
Probably a good thing.
Probably a good thing. Although I could have pucks, which is a 5-letter P word.
Yeah.
And then what would you do? You have to be careful where you hold that card, David, because
you
might block out certain parts of the letter, and you would be blocking out part of the print, and then pucks would become something very different. Print, there's not much of it left. You got the New York Times and the Washington Post, essentially.
Yeah.
What do you think about them this election season, those old bastions of print journalism?
Well, they, and I will say that they were pretty rough on Donald Trump. They were rough on Bernie Sanders during the primaries. But once Trump became the candidate, they were rough on him, and there was a reason for that. And maybe not fair, but there was a definite reason for that. And that's that Trump threatened to sue them all. He said, I don't like what you say. I'm going to take care of you, you raggedy old newspapers.
How ungrateful, though, after all that free advertising.
Well, we're going to come back and do a second show, but we got to bring the portrait back up again. And the reason we have to bring it back, because it's very important how you hold a picture in order to display it. And this is Trump's method of displaying his portrait.
It's a mustache.
No, that's not exactly.
It's a mustache.
Nope. It's the
Not
location.
my portrait. Tell our kids all the time, don't draw on someone else's arm.
It's the location of the finger that I'm referring to.
Yes, very much so.
And with that, we'll see you tomorrow.